Good night, Cameron. How are you doing?
Hey, good night, Ramon. I like hearing good night first. It reminds me when I lived in Costa Rica, like people actually said like buenas noches. They say like good night.
I want
And
to tell you, it's so funny you said that because when I came here, everyone knew this is like, normally you only say good night when you're leaving. And I was like, what? No, we normally say good night when you meet somebody and then when you're leaving also. So
no, right, right. Let's bring some more of that here. I'm gonna start saying good night to people. They're gonna be so confused.
yeah, when I first came, they were like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, yeah. But no, I'm happy you're able to come on the podcast. Again, the name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute. I want to highlight people who dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly. And Cameron, you're one of those persons who embody that and encompass that vision, right? And your story needs to be told. You have a depth and breadth of knowledge that you've done over the years, and it's just trying to make sure people are aware of persons like yourself who get it done, man. That's the
Yeah,
job. Just get it done.
yeah. Well, hearing it from you means all the more. Real recognize real. So, we're up at 9 o'clock at night on the East Coast. You just flew this to the Midwest to do some work out there. So, the fact we're putting this together, dreamed it, we planned it out, and now it's time to execute.
Execute. Well, you know what? I always think of like a sports mindset, right? And I
Mhm.
think we both come from sports backgrounds, and you know, if you LeBron has to play basketball on Christmas Day away from his family, right?
Yeah,
He has something to do. He has to get it done, and he has to travel maybe to Ohio to do that, right? When he lives in California, so it's what we have to do to get what we need to get done, and it doesn't matter how you get it done, long as you make an effort each day to get it done.
that's
So
right. That's
so
right.
let's
Go
let's
ahead.
walk through the life of Cameron, right? Let's talk about a brief history and your background as a high school point guard. How did you start playing sports and everything that you embodied in high school before you got to college.
Yeah. So quick background too. So I played ball when I was basketball when I was in middle school and grade school. My first year of high school, I actually ended up quitting. I quit because I was 5'2", maybe 5'2.5" max. My hands, I have these really small hands that my father gave me. I couldn't grip the basketball at all, so I had to. For me, I was so obsessed with basketball. It was either going to be me going to the NBA or me not doing that at all. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone else, but like when you realize that you're not going to be able to perform at the level you want to perform, you kind of want to put your energy into something that, um, is going to be fruitful for you and then multiply in the future. So, but, you know, being a point guard in basketball was probably like one of my favorite things to do in life up until, high school. Um, it's such a unique position that's on the floor, um, where you have to be the person that's able to see where people need to go,
Right.
get them there while keeping your team happy and together. I love playing point guard. I called the shots on the offensive end. I called the shots on the defensive end as well. I saw the patterns of the teams. I saw where were their strengths and where were their weaknesses. How do I position my team while we're on the floor? And coach is yelling at us, but we kind of get the feel of it. How do I position us to come to a victory?
Right.
So by my eighth grade year, we reached the playoffs for the first time in a very very long time. I got injured right before I went to that playoff game. We ended up losing. I didn't play at all. We ended up losing the game. So that was a sore. That was a sore going into high school. And then once I got to high school, like I said, I realized I wasn't growing any faster. This other guy, he was like 5'7", 5'8", 13 years old, and he had like chin hair already. And he was a freshman like me, and he was the starting point guard. And I was like,
Right.
there's no way. there's no way I'm catching up to this guy. Um, so from there, that was a huge pivotal moment in my life, where I had to bring my focus to something I thought that I could start, build myself, and then eventually become excellent in. So yeah, I had to start from phase one again, and that's
Yeah.
always fun. That's always fun.
Yeah, no, I've been there, man. I mean, like I started tennis as a in sixth, maybe no fifth grade, and I was the short, fat kid on the court, and I wasn't that great, wasn't that coordinated. Worked myself up to being captain of the tennis team at that time. Just hard work, working out after school, working out at break time when everyone else is playing, working out on the weekend, and like there's so much things you learn in a sports mindset or a sports endeavor because you see yourself progress over time with hard work and executing daily or the daily grind of executing and you
Mm.
start falling in love with the process. I mean, I used to sleep with my tennis racket. I
Yeah,
used to dream about being at Wimbledon or the French Open and playing against Rafa or someone else. And yeah, along the way, you just your priorities may change. Something may come up that you didn't necessarily think was going to be a hindrance, and you might quit. You might just completely quit, and that happened with me in tennis. I did definitely reach like a sticking point, but I took a big lesson from it. I just refused to quit on anything else that I didn't know, right? Because the pain of quitting something
mm,
just hurts way more than just keep going at it, right?
that's right.
And you have regrets about certain things. You're like, I wonder. There's always that I wonder if
If
moment,
yeah, it's better. You don't know until you go. Sometimes you just have to
Right,
keep going. Um, I love Diddy's little phrase like "can't stop, won't stop."
right,
You're going to win as long as you don't quit. As long as
right,
you don't quit, you're going to get to the W. And I took that lesson from basketball too when I was younger. Like
right.
it's carried with me. What was that? 15 years ago. I
Hmm.
still think about that to this day. Like, what if I had, instead gone to practice and, because of my height and or regardless of my height, went on the court and found a way to put that to the advantage. Uh, because my leadership skills at that age were I had a different set of skills than most kids in my age, because I also was a Boy Scout, I was an Eagle Scout, so I was able to, to work inside of communities and lead groups of people already. And I've always been active, so I wish I would have been sometimes a little more flexible in my perspective of what I thought a successful basketball player looked like. Not to say I would have made it to the league, but I think I would have made more of an impact with the people around me, on the court, on the floor, because that's what it's all about being a point guard. Like how
Right,
am I impacting the game? How am I impacting my team? How am I setting them up for success? Um, Sometimes I wish I would have connected a lot more with the people there, especially on the court, because that's where you learn so many lessons. But it's
right.
all good. Nothing is done in vain.
No, it's
It
not.
all comes full circle sometimes.
If you don't learn a lesson from it, then that's where the information is lost, right? And you
That's
can't
right.
translate it because I feel that in the way you've carried yourself, and once you work your way down your credentials and what you've done with your life, it's nothing to sneeze at. You went to Penn State and got a bachelor's degree in economics, right?
Yeah.
Why economics? Like, what was the reason? What drew you to economics?
Yeah, like back to that, I think you hit on something that was really poignant important. Like losses turn into lessons with reflection,
Hmm.
and we all want to take some L's, but it's that moment where we take a moment to let it, um, digest,
That's right.
look over it. That's when it turns into a true lesson. That lesson sets you up for success. You know what I mean? So got to feel forward. Economics, man, I was just a very curious guy. I started out in college as a poli sci major.
Yeah.
I didn't know fully what that was. Um, I think I was raised by my mom, and at the time, my mom didn't have a college degree. We ended up actually graduating at the same exact time. Um,
That's dope.
yeah,
Really dope.
I don't know how it came together like that, but it's perfect. It was perfect. Um, so we graduated at the same exact time, but poli sci was okay. I didn't like the study of like U.S. history. Um, so instead, I wanted to study in the honors college at Penn State. The honors college is Shires, and I thought economics was my best angle for getting into the honors college. Ended up not getting into the honors college, but taking a lot of courses in the honors college at Penn State. But economics is just the study of people. It's the study of behaviors. It's the study of patterns. And I alluded to that earlier, speaking about basketball and being a point guard and seeing things on the court in real time, being able to adjust, being adaptable, understanding what the patterns are that you're seeing in your team's strengths and weaknesses and other team's strengths and weaknesses, and making changes on the fly. Economics, I thought, was about, and for me, it really, and it actually is, behavioral science. You're
Right.
studying people, you're studying their decision making. Things that seem rational and logical sometimes aren't so rational and logical. Um, but I think that's the beauty in people. That's the beauty in people. So, a mesh of my love with people, my love for patterns, and being someone that's able to see the signal through the noise was what brought me to economics and to study it at Penn State. And I love math too. Math runs in my family.
Yeah.
So, I was able to run triple integrals in my, freshman and sophomore year, study up to Calc 2 and 3 while at Penn State, which was, to me, I thought was fun.
Yeah.
So, able to do those kind of things. And
Doing that in your freshman year, man, that's because we did in engineering school we did Calc 1 and Calc 2. It's not until you get to sophomore year, depending on the student, that you do Calc 3. So definitely have a affinity to math.
it was tough. It was tough. Shout out to my friend Jagton, man. That dude was sharp. And then another friend, Eleanor, who ended up going to Yale for a master's in the University of Chicago and Berkeley for a PhD. So, I was surrounded by super sharp people. Um, that tribe,
No,
that was,
it's the truth because I just met before I came to Minnesota. I met up with some of my old college friends. One's a principal engineer at DOB. Next one works at Parsons as a structural engineer. A lot of them ended up going into structural and getting their PEs. And yeah, that was a group, man. And some of these guys, I was given a story with one of these guys. I sat directly beside him in statics, which is our first real civil engineering class. And he finishes the exam before everyone else is done with the exam, right? Everyone else is so stressed about this exam. We needed extra time to finish the exam. He gives in his paper. The professor is like, looks at his paper and gives it back to him and is like, "Are you sure?" So he's checking over his work and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure." He gives it in, gets a 99. Gets a 99. And I'm sitting beside this kid. I'm like, who is this kid, man? All the way here getting a 99. The class average is like a 40. Like,
right.
who is this guy? Like everyone else is struggling over here, and this
Right.
guy's over here getting 99. So, my group there's a group of killers, man. They
Yeah,
really, and
yeah.
we stayed studying right up until 1 o'clock in the night,
Mhm. But
I
I
would,
don't think people understand the temperament and personality traits of an engineer.
right,
Um, just usually a calm person, collected, not shouting to the top of their lungs, but they get, I always say GSD, right?
right,
That's my term. Like they get
that,
stuff done, you
right.
know. Jackson, that kid loved looking at problems, like any kind of math problem, equation, whatever it was, and solving. And that's what an engineer does. You give them a dilemma, you give them a challenge, you give them a problem, and they find a way, they find a solution. And, some of the most underrated geniuses out here in the world, man, engineers. I truly understand that. So,
Yeah, I just think I would consider them intellectual athletes. I
yeah.
mean, I think they embody what it means to be an athlete, but it's just not on a court. It's in academia. Academia, and there's a philosophy of being efficient, and efficiency in movement on the court is just going to make you a better player, right? There's
Right.
no wasted movement. You can play for longer. You can do things faster than most people, and the breadth of engineering is just okay. We did this, but can we do it better? It's always can you do it better? Can you do it faster? Can you do it more efficient? Can you do it with less cost, right?
Mm.
And it's always just this continuous loop of trying to do it in a more efficient way, right?
So many factors at play, and you're looking at efficiency in every single factor. I
Right.
think people don't get some people just aim for one factor. They're like, all right, if we can get this one thing correct, we'll be good, and our business will be differentiated from everyone else's.
Right.
Um, but you're looking at every variable over and over again and seeing how they're impacted by other variables that you implement for the first time,
Right.
and finding the best solution. To me, I'm fascinated by engineering. I should have
Yeah.
probably maybe I should have
I
studied.
mean, you do it though. You're a financial engineer. I mean, they have financial engineering at the school I went to, NYU. Time did know at the time, Polytechnic. They have a financial engineering
Now, see, now,
masters.
why am I writing that down right now?
So
Why am I
I
writing
mean,
that
it's a
down?
mindset. Engineering is a mindset. It's a curious thought about a problem and iterating your way to success. Right, like just continuously digging at it and being genuinely curious about a solution that works, and even if it works, always asking that next why. Well, it works, but why and how? Like, how can I make it better? You just don't rest on your laurels. Just like any athlete, like you win the season, you don't just stop. You want to go back next season to win, right? You want a 3P, you want a 4P, and you just keep going at it.
It's iterating yourself to success, which I do not want to skip over because it, to, success happens before you've reached a goal.
A
And
hundred.
honestly, most successful people don't believe that they've ever reached a goal, right? There's always more. There's never a milestone. There was just a challenge, and I got that challenge, and now I'm going to a higher challenge or a more challenging challenge, and I want to figure that out too, right? And it's that iterative process where you're figuring out who you are. That started for me when I was in middle school dealing with basketball and not being able to play the sport. Because
Right.
for so long, that was my identity. I was like, I am basketball. I am a point guard. This is what I do. And this is what I do best, right? I always say, like, you can do anything you want in the world. Like, you don't have to spend hours upon hours doing A to Z. You can just choose one thing and be great at it, and the rest enjoy it, right? For me, basketball was that one thing I wanted to be great at.
Right.
And after I lost it, I'm like, all right, who am I? That's having that question at 13 or 14 years old is
It's
so
tough.
powerful.
Yeah.
It changes you, and you start to understand truly who you are as well as a person. So I got a chance to understand who I am through iterative process and what makes me successful over and over again by going through that one starting point at not being able to play basketball at an elite level. Um, and just going through that, understanding, who am I when I'm my best self? Who am I truly? That's something that you continue to hone on, you sharpen as you go through more and more challenges in life, more and more unknowns. So I love that you said that iterative success, iterative processes. Um,
That's
you
the
know,
goal, man. That's how
yeah,
you
yeah.
be done because I always keep this equation in my mind, which is 1.01 raised to 365, and that gives you 37, right? So that means if you grow 1% each day consistently for 365 days, you get 37x, and that's just compounded. If and things in life are math is a universal law of life, just like physics has laws, and the law of gravity works and it consistently works unless you're somewhere else where there's no gravity. But
Mhm.
that equation works for anything you're doing. You want to become good at basketball, project management, tennis, it doesn't matter. You just need to push 1% each day, and at the end of the year, you will be 37x better than you were when you start.
Even better than that, man. I was talking to a friend of mine
Hmm.
about this 1% better each day thing. I don't know why I started saying this maybe a couple of months ago, in December before the year started. But a couple of days ago, I went on Excel and I
Right.
just wanted to see it. What does 1% better for 1,829 days look like? Which is 5 years, right?
Yeah.
What does 1% better for that many days look like? So I put it in the formula. You know, I put 1 times 1 plus 0.1
Yep.
to 1,829.
Right.
I just wanted to see what that number is because anything that I do, what is that? What level am I going to be if I start at 1 today,
Right.
consistently getting 1% better for the next 5 days or for the next day of my life? And that number is, that was a nice number. I was like, if I can get that number in my pocket right now, I'll be very happy.
Right. Yeah.
We're talking about level 80 million, right?
Yeah, I didn't even think of 5 years. I've
11,
always carried it to a year, but yeah, if you carry that to 5 years, I mean, think of it's an exponential curve, and we get to see it in finance when you talk about cost dollar averaging your way into the market, right? And then that's what you're doing in your retirement fund by you're using the power of time and consistency in your favor. It's just graphically represented in your market, right? You can see a number, right? But a lot of the stuff, there's not a number to track, right? Like, you're talk about being a better person each day. There's not a number you track. It's something you feel, right?
right,
You're going after a goal. There's not really a number you can really track, and so it's hard for the mind to conceive it as easy as it is in, let's say, finance, because you can see a number on the screen, right?
right, right.
But it
It's
works
hard
with
for
everything.
you're right. It's hard for our mind to conceive incremental change,
Mhm.
incremental growth, incremental compounding.
Mhm.
Our mind doesn't, we can't, unless we felt it, seen it ourselves. Most people can't differentiate the difference between 100 million and 101 million
Right,
or 110 million. Or 100 million and a billion. Like our minds can't conceive the math that goes in between. What do I need to get to each process? It's Our brains start to lose focus
right.
because it's that's not how we see one thing in front of the other, and that's it. This idea of compounding, the snowballing effect,
Yep.
that is something that the brain, it takes a bit of time to conceive, but if you can stay true to it, if you can
Mhm.
believe in it, have faith in it, to where you will be 1,829 days from now, level 80 million and up.
And it helps. So the way you do that in project management is you use your schedule, you use tools to help, because humans are just really hard at tracking things. We just don't do it very well. That's why you have that red light at the back of cars, the brake light. It's just to help you perceive the distance change between you driving fast and that person slowing down. So naturally, we're just not very good at picking up incremental changes, to your point. And so the schedule in project management is your tool. It's not to hurt you, it's not to chain you and keep you it's a tool to help you track, because if you don't have it, it's just going to go awry, right?
Right.
It helps you to speed up because the way I see project management, or the same way you see being a point guard, I see like an orchestra leader. Your job is to manage time. An orchestra leader has the violinist, he has the saxophone person, he has the pianist, and his job or her job is to manage the time, and make sure this person is speeding up or slowing down depending on the rhythm of the job, right? And so using the only way you can do that is with your schedule, because
Right.
when stress start hitting you and things start going awry,
Mhm.
that's your way of coming back to a grounded place where you're thinking straight and go,
Mhm.
all right, we need to get this back. So where
Yeah.
are we going to steal time from, or where are we going to double up manpower to get back on schedule, right?
Yeah, you're the project manager, so in relation to the orchestra,
Hmm.
metaphor, you see an ensemble of people, and you get there and they're used to playing their instrument one at a time, right?
Right.
Piano dude going, he's like, let him have his part. You got the guitar dude going, he's playing the guitar. You get, and they're all great, right? You have the
Yes.
trombone and the trumpet, and then you start to see as an engineer and as a project manager, you're like, hold up, I see these pockets. I see where they could work together and maybe
Mhm.
create something in a shorter length of time. Instead of giving the piano 30 seconds, then the guitar 30 seconds, and then the drums 30 seconds, or the percussion's 30 seconds. What if they played together for 30 seconds straight? What would that sound like? What would that look like? And they're adding value to each other at a faster pace. That's what you're doing as a project manager. You're seeing where do people play, or where could they play together? Where could they work together? To get this from point A to point B.
Yep, you got it. 'Cause that's really that's the crux of it. Project management is a people oriented discipline, right? You're working with people actually doing the work and you're helping them become successful. And the PMP, the professional project management certification to be a professional project manager, it talks about in the new version of it, edition 7, stewardship, right? Leadership, and it
Mhm.
also talks about your ability to provide team synergy, right? You're really where the synergy start because just by the nature of the second law, third law, thermodynamics, called the law of entropy. We Entropy means that everything tends to disorder, right?
Right.
Like left alone without an external force, and this is a law. I'm not making this up. This is the second law of thermodynamics, right? Things just always tend to disorder naturally. There's no combination of you being messy in your room that's going to be an orderly room. You have to make an effort to make an orderly room, right?
Mm.
Same thing with like ice cubes. It starts off as an organized structure, and with heat and pressure, it turns into a liquid, which is less organized. Some more heat, it turns less organized, which is like gas, right? And
Mhm.
order is not just made; it doesn't happen by accident. It is made, right? And that's your job,
Mhm.
is to provide law and order on your job. Because regardless of what, if you don't got a point guard and you have super talented power forward and a shooting guard, it's just not going to gel. It's just not going to work.
Bars,
It's
bars. I
not going
mean,
to work.
you drop the mic real fast, Ramon. Because one, I believe that the study of science
Mm-hmm.
and mathematics will get you so close to understanding. I think you went out on me real quick second. The study of science and mathematics will get you so close to understanding the laws of nature and the laws of how we actually interact with each other as human beings and how we interact with this earth. And what it is that process that's going to allow us to become a greater form, right? That
Right.
it's not about, and just bringing it back to what we were talking about early, right? About compounding effect and how people that are successful usually don't have, they may have a goal in mind, a thing to achieve, but
Right.
never have reached or felt like they've reached their full potential. Because when you become successful, you don't. It's it's not like it's not an end goal. It's not like you become successful. You're becoming. You're always evolving. It's a
Right.
process that you fall in love with. You know what I mean? Like, why does LeBron still play? He's almost 40 years old. The only reason why is because he
Right.
loves the process of getting better every single. He's in love with the process. He doesn't. He could score. He could outscore Will Chamberlain
Mhm.
and Shaq put together. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
What he cares about is getting 1% better every single day.
Same thing with Warren Buffett. That's why I said like he's an athlete. He's a business athlete. He's an intellectual athlete. But yeah, the guy doesn't need. He does not, trust me. Warren Buffett. We all know Warren does not need to work, but
He
he
does.
still gets up every day and he still runs Berkshire Hathaway and he still looks at investment and he still does what he does
But
just because of the love of the process of doing what he does, right?
so
And the moment he retires is the moment he's gonna feel sick. It's the moment the fact that his mind is always continuously. So the Japanese have this saying called kaizen, which means continuous improvement. And it's one of the reasons why Toyota became such a big um, power or force in the automobile industry is because if someone found something along the manufacturing process that could make it a little better, everyone stopped, right? And
Mm,
everyone assessed it and added it to the process, right? So there's always this a flow of continuous improvement, right? Continuously pushing the agenda. Same thing with Elon. Elon makes sure all his engineers' desk face the manufacturing plant. So
mm,
you're not isolated from the where it is getting built. So, if you just implemented a process that doesn't work, you're gonna see when it doesn't work when you're on the manufacturing plant, seeing it not work,
mm.
right? And
Yeah,
he's always thinking of in a systematic way. Systems thinking is a next big key principle in the PMI um, seventh edition. Is like thinking of systems and like not just think of your portion as an isolated piece, but of the entire system, right?
right.
Kind of like what you did when you were a point guard. You weren't thinking I could score. I mean, I like Westbrook, but I don't think he played the point guard role as well as somebody like maybe Steph or Allen Iverson. Like you can score hard, but you need to be able to dish the ball. Also, that's your job is to get your team involved.
Yeah, one of my favorite point guard. I grew up in Philly, so AI was my favorite player of all time.
Yeah, it's
You
different, bro.
know, I got a chance to sit on the floor at one of his games. Not because we bought the tickets, but we got
Hmm.
floors because my father worked at the Leah Course Center and he knew some people and blah blah blah.
Right.
And they gave us some floor seats. And the game that I saw AI play, I saw him play against Tony Parker. Now,
Different styles.
I got Tony Parker's autograph. I really
Right.
wanted AI's though. You know what I'm saying? I had his jersey on and everything, but I walked up to Tony. Tony's like, "Hey, come over here and I'll give you my autograph." Really nice guy, right? And what was hard for me to understand was why was Tony Parker such a great point guard? Like,
Mhm.
why was he so good? Like, why does he have more championships than AI?
Right.
How was he able to play the position better than somebody that's a Hall of Famer?
Right.
And the guy knew he just played the perfect role. If there was ever a point guard that played the role correctly, I would say it's TP. He
Yep.
put his team in position no matter who was on the court. He knew the strengths of Bruce Bowen, Robert
Mhm.
Horry, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan.
Yep.
Um, I he
Yes.
had so many different players. He was the Greg Pop, great coach, and I don't want to get too much in the ball
Yeah.
basketball. But the point is that sometimes the true leaders, the strongest leaders, aren't always the ones that like I was saying earlier when we were talking about engineers and how they
Yep.
problem solve. They're not the ones that are always the most lauded in the public eye, but
Right.
they're the ones that get stuff done. That dude has more rings. He has the same amount of rings as Brady, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's that ability to sacrifice your immediate want to have a high scoring game
Yep.
for the team to be a better synergy, has better synergy, right? And making sure everyone's involved in the process of what we're trying to do here. And that's what
Exactly.
happens in the Spurs, right? Like everyone plays their position, they master their position, and they respect each other for the positions that they play, right?
That's right.
And like just like in football, like you don't find, you know, someone who's an offensive lineman try to be a quarterback. Like you respect your quarterback by being he's the quarterback and you play your position and together as a synergized team, we are gonna win if we work together and just capitalize on each other's strength and everybody whose weakness is somewhere else, that's somebody else's strength. Let them play that position and let them play it well and master it.
Yeah.
So no, it's good. So,
I love having conversations like this, man. This is what, 9 o'clock at night reminds you of who you are, who you need to be, and why
right.
you wake up every single day and do what you do, and do it
Yeah.
at a different level. For me, that's development, and for me, that's trying to get 1% better every single day at what I love to do. And
I mean, it shows, man. I mean,
mhm,
not just Penn State, and you went to NYU for your master's in real estate development.
yeah,
You became an editor for a publication called The Blueprint. I mean,
mhm,
it kind
yeah,
of sounds like you embody the blueprint.
Yeah, man, going to NYU, that was a fun. So I applied to NYU only because I was a Peace Corps volunteer and I just got back
Mhm.
from Costa Rica,
Gotcha.
and they have this program where you could, get a part of your scholarship or all of it paid for through the Coverdale Fellowship or the Coverdale Fellowship.
Got it.
So I applied to NYU because there were three slots. I didn't know that at first. I thought as long as you got into the school, you get 50% off your tuition, but you get 50% off your tuition if you're chosen to be a part of this fellowship. So I applied to NYU. I had no idea that was a good school. I was reluctant to apply. I got into Penn State. They gave me a full ride. I was going to get my master's at Penn State, and go right back home, do the same thing over again. But after talking to some friends about NYU, they were like, "Hey, you got into NYU?" I was like, "Yeah, isn't it like a CUNY school or something?" I was like, and there's one in like Stony Brook, there's one in like Albany, there's a lot of these. This one is just a New York one. They were like, "No," they were like, "NYU is it's a great school, right? It's in the same leagues as the University of Chicago, it's the Emory's,
Yeah.
comparable to some Ivy League, universities."
Depending on their business program, or certain programs are really like,
Right.
comparable to any traditional Ivy League school. Yeah.
Right. So I'm applying to this school. I have no idea. I got into this school. I had no idea what the reputation and prestige of it was. Right.
Mm,
And no one in my family knew either. Right. No one in my family. I've been a trailblazer for some time.
right.
Um, so there was never this like sense of elitism that I felt by getting into NYU. I just wanted to go learn real estate. I get into the school, very competitive environment.
Right.
The kids in the classroom are um, very competitive and they're extremely smart. They've been in the industry for a while. Most of the people that I know that were in NYU have family offices or, family members that have started a real estate legacy, not just a real estate business, but a successful legacy with
Well done.
real wealth. Real wealth. I'm,
Yep.
I'm saying like that stuff that we talk about,
Yep.
generational wealth. Like they've had this for the last 100 or some so years,
Yep.
doing this over and over and over again, right? This iterative process
Hmm.
through generations. So I'm in the classroom with these guys, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot to learn, um, and that's why I got so involved.
Gotcha.
Whenever you can walk to your journey or your destination, or you can sprint to your destination.
Yes.
Either way, you must go. Right? Either way, you must travel. You can choose however way you want to travel. Sometimes I like to jump and I like to sprint into things.
Right.
So for me, getting involved at NYU and being able to talk to more people that were like-minded individuals and had history with successful real estate, um, that was my foot in the door, just to soak up as much game as possible and put it in colloquial terms. Um,
Of course.
so we got into the editor in chief position. I ran to be president. I didn't get elected to be president. I lost by a few votes because I was juggling. I was working in Philadelphia at the time, so I lived in New York. Would travel back to Philadelphia on the weekends, and then I got a job. I was working that full time. I was doing internships, and then I had this editor in chief thing. So I had maybe like 3 or 4 jobs happening at
Things
the same
going
time.
on.
Right.
Right.
And also running to be a president of this organization, right? So it's like it's a lot going on.
Right.
But that's who I am. That's what I need in order to stay focused.
Mm.
It's always funny sometimes like having interviews with people that are like, dude, I don't know how we're gonna hire. It seems like you have your hand in so many pots, so we don't know how you can like how do you keep focused with one thing? It's like, the more things I have on my desk, the more efficient I become and reading through all the noise and finding the signal that's going to actually add value to the bottom line.
Well, that comes from your point guard, because think about it. A point guard has to think of defense. He has to see the runs of all the shooting guard. Should I pass to the shooting guard? Should I pass to my power forward? Is this the pass to the center? Right. They have all these other defensive movements that's happening. Someone's picking somebody. There's a lot of things happening at the same time, and not everybody have that cognitive gift of tracking all of that and then passing it to the right person
Right.
in mid run, right? Think
Yeah,
about mid run.
on the court.
Uh, it takes timing, precision. It's a very tough role to play. You're not a role player in the sense of like, I'm gonna stay here, post up, get the ball, and do what I need to do, right? You're not giving anything. You're making the play happen.
Right.
So
It's the logistical part of the game. And then, as you know, and I think you would attest to this too as a project manager, the hardest part of the game is the emotional part. It's like, how do I manage with people emotions? So you're on the court, you're scoring every single drive, but you're scoring through your small forward and your center. And
right,
now your power forward and your shooting guard looking at you like they don't even want you on their team. Like
right,
you favor these two guys, so now you got to figure out a way to get those people involved,
yeah, right,
where they're able to use their abilities and still not lose the game. You
right.
know what I mean? Like, and then you got coach on the sidelines
Yep,
shouting at you for trying to get them involved in the game because he's like, so what? They're not scoring. We're winning. Let's keep doing the
right,
same thing over and over again.
right.
As the point, your emotion that emotional management keeps the team together.
Hmm.
Those are the things that people can't see sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Those little 4, 5, 10 points that you see those bench players have keeps
Hmm.
them on a team, keeps them bringing great energy to the locker room,
100.
right? Keeps them, while people are on the bench, they're clapping up the starters now because they know they have some skin in the game as well. So
Yeah.
making sure that everyone feels good too,
Feels
as
up.
well as do
Yeah.
good, is super important, man. So.
That's the key. That's the glue to the team. And then being a part of the Peace Corps, and then you went on to do you're also a mentor. You're a program manager, real estate intern, real estate agent, acquisitions and development intern. I mean, you did quite a. Like, when you talk about juggling, that's what you talk about juggling. Uh,
Yeah, that's been my life.
project analyst. There's quite a few things you've done find time for. How did you find time for the mentorship? Because you saw, I would send any kid to you to get mentored by the way you carry yourself and approach your thought patterns.
Yeah, you hit something that's so near and dear to me. I had a conversation yesterday with a good friend of mine about that. Um, I was just talking to her. I was like, I could be working on a $1 billion deal,
Right.
and if my mentee calls me, or if a friend of mine calls me and needs advice,
Yeah.
like that jumps, that's triage. Like
Mm-hmm.
that becomes very important now. I may not be able to spend 45 minutes to an hour with them, but I'm
Right.
going to pick up because to me, that is what this is about. This is about making sure that the people that come after us, the people that come after me, don't have to go through the same hurdles that I had to go through. How can I make this process easier for the person that's coming next? Not to say that, oh, they're going to have it easy because they're going to have their own challenges. But how do I make it so that they're able to step on this step that I've taken and
Right.
catapult into another stratosphere where there are harder challenges and more, and greater rewards. Mentorship, man, it's a priority. We make time for the things that we love. Though that's something that people will never see in me. They won't see the people that I mentor because those are personal relationships.
Right.
Like, man, I pour into people. Like that's you hit something. You hit a real nerve with that, man. Because I have a group chat with a bunch of guys. We do this thing called 75 Hard, where it's no alcohol for 75 days, 2 workouts a day, drink a gallon of water, act of kindness, talk to a random stranger, 5-minute cold shower. You're doing this for 75 days straight. And we have this circle of really young guys. I'm the oldest one there. I think I'm 29, and everyone else is 23, 24, 22. 22 to 24, maybe that's a better way of saying it,
Right.
range. And it's just so important that, everything that I learn, everything that I know, I'm able to share with them. And I've also learned you become a better learner when you're learning to teach
100%.
instead of just learning to learn for yourself and keep it to yourself. When you're learning something so you can teach it to someone else so they can be great at it as well,
Yeah.
you become that much sharper with it. And that's why it's important to have associates. That's why it's important to have APMs. That's why it's important to have, some kind of hierarchy of positions, so that people at the top are always getting better by trying to help those climb the ladder,
Hmm.
right? You become sharper and sharper. But yeah, mentorship is extremely important. Ran into a group of people on Friday. They told me about Read 718. Um, they told me about Reading Partners, which is a program here in Brooklyn, where you're able to tutor kids how to read, at higher levels at a younger age.
Hmm.
Revolves everything comes full circle. When I was 16, when I was 15, I had a project, Eagle Scout project, where I collected over 1,000 books and donated each one of those books to an orphanage in Philadelphia. And the
Nice.
reason why I did that was because Philadelphia is a very black city, especially when we talk about, like, the areas that are concentrated with poverty.
City
Uh,
love.
it's the city of brothers, brothers, like brothers. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I realized that these kids. I saw a statistic, and it might have been true, it might have been false, but
Hmm.
it resonated with me. It was like, most people in prison have a third grade reading level or less, or lower than third grade reading level. So I'm like, how do we keep kids, which, growing up now, I know this isn't always true, but what could be one way to expose these children to a better quality of life, something more to look forward to?
Right.
And I was giving them education from a young age. So I went to these orphanages. I talked to them, like, hey, what are you missing here? What do you need? What kind of resources can I give you? I'm a 15-year-old. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have no money. What can I do?
Right.
Collected a bunch of books and donated to them. So that idea of mentorship, making sure that the next generation is just that much better off than my generation. Um, that's everything to me, Ramon. That's
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
That's
You
everything.
live a fulfilled life. I mean, you can make money, but it's not. Uh, People, it's a holistic thing, right? It's a credit score to me, right? And finance is just a part of your score, right? You must be doing something philanthropic to get your entire score, because you can make money, but you make money and you're alone. The way you break somebody in prison is by putting them in isolated confinement. People isolate themselves in confinement by making a lot of money and then disappearing, but then you stress because you're thinking it's just the finance that was going to give you what you want. Yeah, you can pay for your meal, but your mind as a social creature needs to be involved in social endeavors. And the best feeling you can give to your own self is giving to somebody else, right? I used to teach back in Jamaica at my old church. They had adults who didn't know how to read, right? They went their whole life and they never read, right? Some of these stories. In fact, I was doing my community service in organizing the books at church, and not just bookkeeping basically. The head of the church administration was like, "This is not real, you know, community service. Like, this is something you could do easily. We have a program downstairs called the Jamal program. You're in 13th grade at one of the top high schools in Jamaica. Why don't you go downstairs and teach English and teach
Mhm.
math?" At first, I'm like, no, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'll be a great teacher. I gave every excuse. And she's like, listen, don't come back upstairs. I'm going to introduce you downstairs. You're going to start teaching some classes, right? And I mean, till this day, I still think of the stories that I heard in that class, and I recognize there's a difference between being wise and being knowledgeable, right? You can be knowledgeable reading is a skill. They just never learned the skill, but it doesn't mean that the person is not wise, right? Because they went through a lived experience. But some of these people are coming back to learn to read because they have grandkids. The grandkids is asking them, "I want you to read me a storybook," and they can't. And they
Mhm.
felt so hurt about that. They're here now learning how to do the skill of reading. And one of the best joys I had is like leaving class with my students, and they're looking at billboards that they couldn't read before, and now they're able to read it. And that moment in their eye, they're like, "Oh my God!" It's like they're seeing. They're seeing, they were seeing before, but they weren't seeing and feeling the meaning behind what they were seeing, right? And now they're seeing and feeling it. I remember one day it was rain. It was pouring rain. I was like, "There's no way anyone's gonna show up, right?" But just me being disciplined, I'm like, "I'm gonna show up just in case." And I came in like 10 minutes late because it was raining, and they were all sitting down waiting. They're like, "Where were you?" I was like, yeah, I didn't think you guys were gonna show up today, but I ended up doing more than I need. I probably needed 20 community hours or 30 minimum for my school. I ended up staying there for 2 years.
You fell in
I
love with the
ended up
process.
doing it just because of the process and the fulfilling feeling that I got from helping somebody.
Mm.
And it got to a point that they even the church started like, or the teachers would group together and give me money. I'm like, I'm not doing this for money. I'm fine. Trust me, it's not the money why I'm here teaching the way I'm teaching. No, someone stoked a fire in you, and I never had that before. So, the moment you start mentoring, you realize, wow, how much life fulfillment you yourself get. And your
Mm.
mentors, mentees actually help you mentor. Like it's always something you learn something you're like, yeah, I never thought it like that. I never experienced life from that angle before. And it's a learned environment, it's a learning experience together. So
I had to run. I had to find a quote, man, because
mhm.
when you mentioned that they walked outside and they were reading the billboards,
Yeah,
it's like they have seen for the first time.
right.
If you can give someone that experience in their life,
Yeah.
you have you have blessed someone so much. It's this quote that I've lived
Mm,
uh, by T.S. Eliot. It says, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." And so many different places that I've been, talking about going to Costa Rica and
right.
working in service with people. Whenever I come back to Philadelphia, wherever I come back home to my family, I always see it through a new lens for the first time, man. But just listening to your story, man, I was getting chill bumps. Just imagining like that feeling and that drive that you have to helping other people succeed. And you spoke about, the credit score, right? And how it doesn't just take into consideration that you paid all your bills on time. It
No.
also it takes into consideration, okay, what's your credit level? How much are you using?
Mhm.
Um, and other factors as well. And I just thought, what a profound way in a world that I don't want to say in a world and overgeneralize, because there are definitely some people out here that think the way we do, are very like minded, but are consumed by clout and consumed by recognition and consumed by influence for, and which are other words for material, right?
Right.
For by material things like, oh, I have more money, so I'm better than you, or I make more money at my job, so I'm more efficient than you, or I'm more effective than you, or I have a greater impact because of the dollar value of what I do. And that's just not. It's it's just a shallow way of looking at life. And until you've been able to live and make someone else's life better,
Yes.
and make a community of people's
Yes.
lives better. And these are people that doesn't show up on your resume. That doesn't show up in your bank
It's
account.
not for cloud. It's
There's
not
nothing to show for it. There's nothing to show for it
right.
other than the fact that these people know you and they will care for you for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
That's all there is. That's all there is, man. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, and that's just such a profound lesson. And there's no way to teach someone else to have that kind of like care and want to really do it. It has to
Well,
be embedded in you, you know.
it puts your soul at peace too. Like, there's a lot of people who are just not just anxious but frustrated with their life, and they make good money. It's not about, like I said, money is just, it's a tool, right? It's a part of a currency. In fact, it takes away, to me, the biggest currency you have is social currency. My
Mhm.
ability to go to somebody and ask them to do something, they'll do it for free because of the nature of who you are, right?
Mm.
All money does is cut the social currency out, and I'll pay you even if you don't like me to do the thing, right?
Right.
And so, like, the best currency you can have is social currency, your ability to be a good natured, well intentioned, hardworking person that people gravitate to. Because at the end of the day, if the universe is growing infinitely in all directions,
Hmm.
right, which it is, wherever you stand technically is the center of the universe.
Mm.
And you can choose to either be a light at the center of the universe or you can choose to be a black hole, right? And what happens to the light at the center of the universe? You find things springing to life from that light, right? The sun is at the center of our universe, their earth, then the earth has a moon, and things flourish because of your light, right? And you could be a black hole where you suck and you take and you just don't give back anything. And what the coldest parts of the universe isn't around a black hole, right? So if it works in relativity, trust me, it works on the micro level. The same thing with macro versus microeconomics. It's all intertwined. Everything is all intertwined. So like if it works, that's what you recognize with your degree in economics.
Right.
From my degree in engineering is that you recognize everything. We're all a one big part of this one big system, right?
Social.
And everything is interconnected. It's not separate, right? It's a web of things that you do something and it ripples through the world, right?
Social equity, man. That I think that's such a profound lesson, and I'm going to keep saying that because you keep dropping dimes. Um, when I first got to Costa Rica, I met this guy named Noldan, and I
Mm,
didn't really know how to speak Spanish at the time, so he had to really speak like very
right,
simple, like elementary style words to me.
right,
And he used to say to me, Cam, or he asked me a question one day. We were in the car after, we were doing some volunteering. We were planting some
right,
trees. He was like, which man is richer? One man is rich and has no friends.
right.
One man is not rich, but has a bunch of rich friends.
Mm,
He asked me, which man is richer? And I just, to me, the guy that has the rich friends is richer. Always going to have access to capital, always going to have access to people that
100%.
care about him, that trust him. For me, man, that I would be happy living my life up until this day. I have my own goals. I have my own financial goals that I want to get to, my own developments and my investment strategy that I'm building out, and the capital I want to raise and the kind of company that I want to run. I have my own build, my own goals, of course.
Right.
But I could leave this earth today happy knowing that I've made someone's lives better.
Mm,
I'm okay with that. And not to sound like down and out about it, but I'm happy to have been of service to someone else getting better, you know. Um, so yeah, I think, that's I don't know how we went on this whole mentoring tangent, man, but
Yeah, no, but it's good now because it
it's
is
good.
apparent in your when I'm reading through your bio on LinkedIn that you did a lot of volunteering and things that, and I mean, like, listen, you're a development analyst right now, right? Like, and a lot of the things are around mentoring, and I was like, wow, that's really profound that you spend the extra time because it takes time to mentor, and make the sacrifice, and you make that sacrifice. So let's get into your, like you said, you know your development plan, like the dream, that you have for, you have the degree in real estate, economics, your sports mindset, mentorship. No, you're bringing this all together to this one goal or thing that you're working towards. What is that thing?
Yeah, man, that's a big question, because it's a lot to bring into one thing.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, there is no other avenue that will allow me to impact people in a tangible way,
Hmm.
in a more tangible way than real estate development.
Okay.
Uh, so, community economic development has always been my passion, my purpose.
Gotcha.
And real estate development is a part of that community economic development. The
Okay.
need for infrastructure, the need for quality facilities, the need for safe spaces and places, the need for entertainment, the need for conductive or conducive and productive spaces for people to work in and to innovate and to collaborate. All of that comes under the idea of real estate development as well, right? So for me, it's about master planning communities, um, and I would love to do that in communities of color. Um, More specifically, historically Black colleges and university communities. I got a chance to work with a professor at NYU, Professor Matthew Quatnitz, who's just a very smart guy, and also with Derek Fleming, who is over at HRNA Advisors, another very smart guy. I'll be on calls with them, and I would just you ever have like a conversation with someone that's like that much more ahead of you in understanding something technical?
Yeah.
You're like, honestly, I don't even know how to add on to that.
Yeah.
I don't have another question. That
Yeah.
was almost every call with us. No matter how much I studied, no matter how much I prepared, these guys just had incredible insight. And we studied, and I was pretty much the graduate assistant researcher, and I was the author of a paper on how historically Black colleges and universities have been anchor institutions in their communities, meaning how have they been the institutions, how have they been the businesses, how have they been the educational centers that allow for people to mobilize socially, economically, and culturally. And the starting of historically Black colleges and university is in and of itself um, just a phenomenal feat that took years of fighting, years of community building, working with local schools, churches, businesses that people that look like us, in places that we were secluded to, isolated to. And from there, we would, go and be educated and learn and grow on to have more productive lives. So in past years, they've had a lack of capital investment. They've had a lack of investment into their infrastructure and into their people. Um, all else being equal, the levels of investment into HBCUs and other institutions have been very disproportionate. There's a saying that historically Black colleges and universities were treated much like Black people were, and are treated much like Black people are. So in these areas, just me thinking of, not how do I just keep these institutions Black and the cultures and communities Black, but how do I allow these people that go to these institutions, that trust them with their knowledge, that trust them with their maturity or their maturing, that trust them with their personal development. How do I give them the resources that they need, or how do I work in collaboration with these universities to provide their students and their communities with the resources that they need to reach the dreams and goals that every single person in that community has. Right. So, um, it's not as simple as going in and providing affordable housing
Right.
or housing. And it's not as simple as going in and saying, oh, we're going to give you a new business school. We're going to give you a new art school. We're going to give you a new engineering school.
Right.
It's understanding where the universities are positioned, what their goals are, and aligning their goals with the students' goals, and then those goals with development goals for the future.
Okay.
So it's a lifelong work. It's not something that you can just underwrite inside of a model. It takes true selflessness and understanding what are the goals, what are the wants and desires of this community, and how do I use my skills to help, or even if they allow me to help them, right?
Right.
Um, because that's the other part of mentoring. Sometimes I mentor some of the sharpest people. I'm like, these people, I'm like, damn, if I were like them when I was younger, I don't know where I would be right now.
Right.
Um, so it's that honor of feeling like, wow, they've chosen me to do this. Um, so in that, I just hope that the universities will be willing to allow me to help shape their future
Mm.
in the best way that I know how to, which is, understanding community dynamics, understanding economic development, and understanding real estate development.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a potent mix of things, man, because like I said, it's not just micro or macro, it's everything. Everything is connected, and not you're seeing the holistic view of what the community needs and then providing that service. Um, I want to ask though, like, what would be the first tangible step in that plan? Like, what would be the first thing you would want to tackle, or is it getting funding for the endeavor, or is it like coming up with a community culture of what you want to? Because you got to start somewhere, it's like a
it
jigsaw puzzle. So, what
is
would be the first thing you want to tackle?
it, it is a jigsaw. I've heard great advice from some great mentors that I have as well. Like, can't find a deal, find somebody that works at United Airlines and fly down there or to the university as much as possible, develop something or buy some properties in the area. I think that's a tangible way of getting to it. I also think, like I said, man, sometimes just having the gift of being able to see the signal through the noise, and seeing certain patterns. For me, it would be working with the universities to you can find a deal. Housing is necessary,
Right.
but some universities just won't allow you to develop on their campus because they don't trust you. How do you earn the trust of a university? You show interest in them, care about them. You ask them what are their goals and their needs. What are their goals and their needs going to be geared toward the students, what they want, what they desire, what they need. What do the students want and need? Security, income, um, the ability to move and do what they want to do. Well, what's something that can provide students security, stability, and income over the lifetime of their life? Real estate development. Why is it that a lot of these universities don't have real estate development programs or real estate programs at all, or social clubs
Right.
that teach about real estate, that teach about the importance of real estate? Why aren't they demanding from their universities that they bring people in that are teaching about real estate development and even being an agent or being a wholesaler or being a contractor or being whatever? Like, why isn't this not a very important part of the university strategy, right? Or the curriculum, right? Or the social clubs. So it's about if I want the university to start seeing real estate development in their area as viable, as necessary, as profitable, yeah, and impactful, it starts with helping the students see that real estate development is impactful, that it's
Right.
powerful, that it can create change. Because once the students want it that bad, the university is there to serve the students' needs, right? So that's so the tangible part of it is one of the most tangible parts I think is really working with the students there, teaching them the benefits of real estate development, how they can really start to shape their future. Right? How do you become great in this world? You start looking at things that have yet to be there, right? You walk into a room and you think, oh, this could be there or this could be there. Until you have that vision of what could be there, it's hard to differentiate yourself, right? And become
Yep.
great. So, teaching students how to think about, what could we be? What are we becoming? And what do we want to continue to become? Right. And giving them that mindset early on, man. It doesn't need to be every single student at the university, but a good two or three.
It's like a mixture of personal development and real estate development too, because it's like through
Absolutely.
the knowledge of real estate, you also are developing as a person.
Right.
And
Right.
you
Because
see,
you asked, how do I marry
yeah,
volunteer work with, the
right,
mentoring with real
right.
estate development? And that's the only way possible.
Mm.
Only way possible.
But it's funny. The Japanese have this saying they call it ikigai, and ikigai is your life's purpose, and it's four intersecting circles, right?
Mhm.
So it's what you're good at, what you love doing, what the people need, or what people will pay you for, right? And at the
Mhm.
middle of those four intersecting circles is your ikigai. It's your life's purpose. It's your goal and vision of the future. But it has to have the balance of all four, right? Like,
Right.
if without one of those, it's not ikigai. It's, you could be good at something and they'll pay you for it. That could be a profession or it could be a vocational service that you provide, right? But
Right.
for it to be truly ikigai, it needs to good at it. The world needs it. They'll pay you for it, right? It needs to have all four of those circles, right? Kind
Hmm.
of combined together at the dead middle of it is your ikigai. So I think that's what you're embarking on, is finding your ikigai, or you found your ikigai, and you're working through the mechanics of, all right, how does this all come together? I know I've done a lot of different things,
Hmm.
between being a sports an athlete, macroeconomics, real estate development, mentorship. How can I bring all of this, what I have now, into a potent force that can be for good? So that's what you're working on, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Hey, man, you do a great job of being able to see all the components that go into the recipe. You know what I mean? You get all of the ingredients and you understand how if they work together well, they'll make something great, something edible, digestible. You make it very digestible, man, and understandable to me as well. I'm just listening to you talk sometimes like, wow, yeah, I'm getting a clear idea of what I'm hearing, what
And
my vision is.
I
It's
had
different
a
hearing you summarize it sometimes.
it had a professor. Like, I wasn't great at math at first. Like, I was okay, and then I had a professor, Sheldon McDonald, in 10th no 10th grade, right? And sometimes, like, the best teachers are the teachers that weren't good teachers, or weren't good at the subject and became good at it. So for him, all the other teachers just couldn't get through to me in math because they were already very good at it. And so they just couldn't understand why I didn't understand, right? And I recognized that they couldn't understand why I couldn't understand, but he did, because he was bad at math and he became very good at it, right?
Right,
And
right.
that guy changed my whole life. He really did. Because at the time I wanted to do architecture, I was trying to figure out my step in the world. Like, at first I loved video games. Like, after tennis, I was like, all right, well, if I'm not going to be a tennis player, I got to do something, right? So I'm like, I want to make sure my mom is good.
Yeah.
And it has to be a profession that I'm not going to get a lot of pushback on trying to do it, because it has to work. I was good at art, but I'm like, if I try and do art 100%, I might not make it. I might not, and I have to make it because I need to be able to take care of my mom. So that ain't gonna work. That's too much risk there. And I was like, but I still enjoy the process of developing and building something. So I was like, oh well, art mixed with a profession is architecture. So I ended up at architecture, right? And then I took technical drawing, physics, chemistry, computer science, math, English, right? Construction tech, and everyone else was doing medicine or law, right? Or accounting. I was like, yeah, I want to do something in the built environment. And
Hmm.
then I come across this stumbling block of, like, I'm not good at math. How are you going to become an architect who's not good at math? This don't make sense.
No, bro, it's no way to do.
This is traumatic at this point, right? So yeah, and when you have purpose and when you have a goal, people see it and they gravitate to it, right? Like, he always saw me with, we call it a T square, which is back in the day before AutoCAD. He had this piece of wood that literally shaped like a T. You put it on your table, it
Yeah.
gives you square. You can draw, you can use a triangular set to be able to draw straight lines with it, right?
Hmm.
And he's like, I always saw you walk with purpose with your T square. And you were in class, I innately understood at first, but I go home and do the homework. I'm completely forgetting what I saw in the book or the class, right? And
Right.
I just would just give up. I just wouldn't do the questions. And he's like, no, Ramon. And he changed my mind frame, right? He said, listen, I'll stay every day after class 15 minutes with you, but you have to try the problem and you have to fail at the problem and
Mm.
stop where you failed, or just go through the problem, and then I can help you from right there. But I can't help you if you don't do the problem. This is not history. You can't just look at it and think you got it. This is like cooking. You gotta put the fire on the stove. You gotta cook. And if you don't do that, you're gonna burn a couple stuff, but eventually you're gonna cook, right? Like, that's what you have to do with math. You have to do the problem. It's a problem. It's an activity. It's not looking at the problem, looking at the example, and you think you got it. And the moment he did that,
Oh.
bro. I got a straight A profile in that exam, that regional exam that I was supposed to take, right? And at that point, I left school. I took a year off between high school and college to prepare myself to be going into engineering because it switched now. I didn't want to do architecture at the time
Mm.
because, I found out that engineering is a more flexible degree and you can go into banking, you can do whatever you want to do with it, right? And so I'm like, well, if I'm going to take on the rigor of engineering school, I need to, study up on my physics some more, do some more, and I failed Calc 2, by the way, after that in high school. And I had to take that back over. I'm like, I'm not taking this
Who you
up.
took off to, man? That's
And so I'm like, all right, let's take this over. And I met a friend, and that friend, I was at that time, I'm taking Calc 2 in high school. So when I go back to take over like beginner physics, I'm just I'm just running through this class. And he's like, listen, you seem to have an affinity to these things. You want to help me understand this? And I
mm,
sat with him after school the same way my professor sat with me after school to, mentor me. And it's like he was making the same problems I was making. I'm like, no, you can't look at the problem. You got to do the problem. So guess what? We're gonna run the same play that my professor ran with me. We're gonna do the problem, and wherever you get stuck, I'll help you. And he ended up getting a B plus in the class. In fact, he finished the exam before me, and he was like walking out the exam. He's like, "What are you doing? I know you're done. So like, come on, let's go." Like, and so I got up and we ended up leaving, and we ended up becoming very good friends. He lives in Florida. He's in the military. He works in construction as a HVAC technician, and that moment changed his life. So, like I said, everything is webbed and connected together. That professor doesn't know the magnitude of how much he changed my trajectory and how I'm able to help now in the way I can, just by him having patience, being a little bit understanding, and really understand the problem at heart, that it's not a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of your approach to the problem.
that's right.
What's your approach? How are you approaching the problem? And like, no, your approach is not right for the execution of that problem, So
Mm,
help tremendously, man. So
mm.
you're going to be doing that for a lot of people, and you are doing it for a lot of people. So it's great.
Finding somebody that can speak to your experiences and just believes in you, man. That one person that believes in you, dude, is. And I'm not talking about your mom and your dad and whether or not they disagree with what you're doing. I mean, like that person that they don't benefit from believing in you, or at
Right.
least it doesn't seem like they do, but they do. That that is the person that you need in your life, man.
Well,
And I just hope to be that person to people that aren't believed in, that are looked over, um, because I want somebody to do the same for me, right? I have some goals that I believe that most people don't have.
right.
I have aspirations that I know most people don't have.
Mm,
Um, and I want for someone to believe in me as well and to walk with me like each step of the way. This is how you get here, and this is how you get here. And
right.
it's not, oh, you should think about pivoting and you should do something else. I always had this story when I was in high school. My freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year, I went to my guidance counselor. I told her I wanted to go to Harvard. I was like, hey, I know it's gonna be challenging. This is how I started off. I know it's gonna be challenging, and I don't see any banners inside of this room that say Harvard, but that's where I want to go. Her response to me was like, well, have you started looking at any other more realistic schools? Or maybe we can like start looking at other places instead of Harvard. Like no one else has ever done this. And to me, like if I were in that chair, if I was, and not any shame on her. I don't know her background. I don't know what she's experienced. I don't know how many
Yeah.
kids come to her and said that and failed or tried, or I don't know. I didn't know what she thought about herself. But all I knew was for the rest of my life, if I ever had someone walk up to me and say something as outrageous as a kid from Philly that grew up in a very typical Philly fashion,
Yeah.
if they like, hey, I want to go to Harvard, I'm going to do everything in my willpower as long
Make
as that kid is willing to meet me and or even exceed my energy for it. I'm willing to do everything that I can to make sure that this person has a shot at achieving their dream, man. So,
100%.
hearing you say that you turn strength into a career, into a passion, into a purpose, or you took a weakness, I'm sorry, and turned
Yeah.
that into a passion and a purpose and a strength to your career and what you're great at. People don't know how great you are at what you're doing right now.
Right.
You know, like, and it you have to be great at math to do this stuff. Like
Yeah, it's just a
can't miss it.
requirement. It's something you gotta be good at, man.
Yeah, you could be okay at this, and then if you can pick up in other areas, then we'll be good
Right.
with you. Like, no, this is base level, and you've met that challenge, man. You've exceeded that. That doesn't speak to who you are. That doesn't speak to your, you iterating yourself enough to be successful. I know you talked about in other podcasts about your journey to even learn how to play tennis and be great at tennis.
Yep.
You proved to
Tennis was the
yourself
spark. Tennis was
you
the thing that tennis taught me how to learn. I think people forget the process that goes through the process or the arc you go through mastery or learning. And the
Mhm.
older you get is the more you get fearful of being a novice, right? And feeling like you need to learn.
Yeah.
And so because of that fear and your ego being rubbed the wrong way, that you limit your growth, right? Right now I'm doing jujitsu. I started jujitsu this year, right?
Mm.
I started back in the day, but I had to stop. But now I'm really giving it a go, and I'm going to this killer's den called Royal Jiu Jitsu. The guy who runs it, right?
Yeah.
He's on the international scene. You can find him on YouTube, right?
Right.
Just going after people, and he has a silver medal in jiu-jitsu, right? This
Yeah.
is not like just a regular place. And I go there and I get schooled. I get
Every day.
schooled, right?
Go up.
And but it's the process. Like first time I went there, I'm gassed, and I'm like, I'm a fairly fit guy. I work out. I'm not like a. And 3 rounds in, I'm looking for air, and it's around me, but I can't get it in my lungs. So I'm like, yo, what is going on here? You mean we're not done? We got 2 more 10 minute fight
Oh, so
rounds.
you need to get back on the mat.
Yo, people holding their hand up in the air like, yo, you want to roll? I'm like, yo, just give me a sec. Like, this is this is not normal. And then, there's this one a breakthrough moment where I survived the first 5 rounds, meaning like I actually did 5 rounds, right? And it's
Yep.
just a
That's
little
amazing.
bit, your body becomes a little bit more efficient. The first time I went, a whole week I couldn't work out. Like that
Yeah.
was it. I'm doing one class. I'm sore the whole week. Feeling my bones. I'm like,
Make
listen,
me
this,
feel bad, bro. I did jujitsu once.
yeah,
I rolled on the mat once. I was looking for everything.
yo,
Sneakers,
yo,
pants,
yo,
air. I was
yo,
ready to get out of there, bro. I
yo,
was pissed off. I
no,
couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe for like 30, 40 minutes.
yeah, it's
Why
tough.
can't I catch my breath?
Yo,
Like,
it's
this
tough.
is hard, man. I
It's
don't
tough.
think I'm going back. But I do box, but that's challenging too. Boxing is very challenging, man.
Yeah, I love
Being in that ring is tough. Makes me want to get back on that mat. But like you said, some people are just afraid to go into places that they haven't been because they don't know who they are in that space yet.
right.
And to me, that's been my entire life. I've industry to industry, service to service. I just believe in who I am. I trust
Mhm.
in who I am. And I've seen myself start with, you know, the very basics,
Right.
aka just drive.
Drive.
That's it.
Do you
Every
think
single
that's
time.
nature or nurture? Do you think that's something you learned from like a mentor that you had, or that's just something you innately had?
You know, that's such a good question. Some people would like look at their background as like, oh man, I didn't grow up with this much or blah blah. But man, I have a phenomenal mother.
Mhm.
My dad is a very strong guy, who's dealt with a lot of adversity as well. Our history as a people.
Mhm.
I also have Judaism in my history too, in my family blood. Just people that have just been cast out, you know, just looked at like they weren't going to be able to do anything,
Mhm.
um, having to prove themselves over and over and over again. I don't know if it's nature or if it's, I don't know if maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's the nature of the line that I come from and my family and the shoulders that I stand on
Right.
and how they nurtured me and raised me. But I can't tell you that anybody's given me the dreams that I've given me or that I have. I can't tell you that I know anyone else in my family that's as driven as I am. And there are a lot of people in my family. I can't tell you that I grew up in a two-parent household because I didn't ever at any point since like birth.
Right.
Um, but what I've always had, man, was this drive to be exceptional at
Hmm.
whatever I do, and I don't know why, but I accept it. I'm so grateful for it.
Right.
I'm not just grateful for the things but that I have, but I always say, a prayer and just say thank you for the vision because to me that's enough. I don't look for a handout. Just show me how, or just give me a glimpse, and I'll
Right.
go after that. You know what I mean? And
Do you
uh,
think that's a signature strength of yours? Do you think that's something that you, if you had to consider things that were your strength, would you consider your drive one of your strengths, or are there other things that you think is like God or God gave this to you? This was something that you just innately had or developed over time.
I never thought of my drive as being a strength actually, ever. I always thought like, man, this thing is gonna be my doomsday. I go into interviews. I had an interview with a really good company. I worked so hard for it, man. I would get up at 5 a.m., get there at 6 a.m., and I'll leave at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for a summer straight, and I would read articles and read investments. I did everything you possibly do. And the guy, sits there with me in an interview. He's like, "So what do you want to like? What do you want out of this? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do you do all of this?" I was like, "Why can't we just be as great as anybody else on this earth?" Oh, you know what I'm saying? That was my answer. It was like
Yeah.
I just can't fathom why I can't be just as great as the people that I'm influenced by.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I can't. I don't know what it is in me that makes me this way, Ramon. But
Yeah.
um, I don't have a lot to show for it, dude. I don't have $1 billion. I don't have $1 million. Um, what I do have is just who I am, man. And this man, this unwavering confidence and I'll figure out a way somehow, some way, dude. Like it's just a process, like you said. Man, if I could show you where I'm from,
Yeah.
where I'm at now.
Now you mean, I mean, listen.
And it's not just the material things, man. It's the people that I've been able to touch, dude, from people that have less or have more than me. It
Mhm.
does not matter. It's if I could just show you the people, if I can call them and talk to them, they will talk to you and they will tell you for themselves.
Well, this is the start. This is the start of sharing that story, not the end. It's the start, and the future. I'm sure will possibly have some video evidence, some testimonials, some things that really touch people. Because at the end of the day, that's the journey, man. Like that's what Jesus came on this earth to do. Jesus never had nothing. Not rose on a donkey, but you know what I mean, and
Who showed
touch.
up in the donkey?
Bro was on a bro literally didn't have anything and
Bro
came
came,
here,
who showed up on a scooter, bro?
bro, and
Kick scooter, bro.
touch 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 people's lives in a way that like he still remembered to this day. So everyone has the ability to be the like I'm a blasphemy. I said be Jesus, but I'm going to say you have that spirit in you to touch people's lives. And impact more than what your little circle of what you're doing. And the realistically, that's what the bigger when we talk about the man, when we talk about the system,
Mm.
the intent is to always stop you from having a community and doing community economics and seeing past your differences and working together. Like the intent is to always divide and have you work in ISO because it's easier to control it if you work by yourself. Much more difficult to control if you're working together, right? you're working as a unit. It's much more forceful, it's much more difficult to manage that problem, right? And the same way with birds. Birds do it all the time. You could fly from here, you could be a snowbird and fly by yourself. But the trauma you do by trying to do that flight by yourself versus you got a crew of killers and one is running at the front, yo, I'm tired, you shift out and they break the wind for each other, right? You make the journey way more fun doing it together, right? And
True.
I felt that in college, like the guys that I studied with, we had some fun times, like we were like couldn't find any place to study, right? Literally, libraries completely full. You're talking engineering school, so everyone's like half nerd or just trying to get through school, right? So like literally, the library is completely full, right? And there was this old building that they couldn't demo because it was a landmark building. And it used to have the old president's office. And we would
Mm,
take, if you have those folded cabinets and it has the the wire at the top of it where you put the paper in, and it holds the papers in it. It's like a piece of paper with two wires at the top, and it hooks into the cabinet, and you can pull it in and out. We took one of those wires off, and we opened the president's door. Well, at that time, his old office, sneaking to study. Where do you do that? Like to go study, just to find a place to study. Because what would happen is like 10 o'clock, you're studying, you're in the middle of figuring out what you need to do for this exam, and you're in a classroom. They're closing the rooms at 10, and everyone's inside the library. So you're like stuck trying to find place to study. So we found this one spot and it became our spot. They tried everything. At some point they put up like a guard to stop us from being able to
think-
open the door. That didn't stop nobody. It's you know, I I had moments where I was like, we were joking about it, where I was literally strategically homeless. I was like, yeah, I can't go home. Like commuting home was an hour and a half. I'm interning at Con Edison. If I'm leaving school at 1 o'clock to get home, which is an hour and a half to get back to the same place, which is 10,
Mm,
15 minutes away from where I just left, I'm
mm,
not getting enough sleep. If I'm commuting an hour and a half one way, an hour and a half back, that's 3 hours a day. That's 15 hours of studying that I could be doing just
mm.
commuting. No, this math is not mathing. So guess what? I didn't dorm, but I made friends with all the security guards, right? And at the time, my girlfriend at the time was holding me down. She was like, "Yo, you can stay," because I always had like I had two groups of friends, right? I
Mhm.
had these exceptionally, and I'm talking about these exceptionally really smart groups of friends that just get it, and their pace was so fast that we would have a joke called 2 a.m. Ramon. The joke is they'll finish the homework by like 11, 12, right? And
Mhm.
at about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I'll be like, I get it. And I could explain everything we just did, right? About 2 o'clock, but they appreciate, you know what super smart people appreciate? The process that you're willing to work. It's not this, I'm coming, oh, let me just copy your homework and then, just run off with it. It's like, oh, all right, he's putting in the work. Yeah, he's just, you might not get it now, but by 2 a.m., no matter what it was, Ramon was going to get it, regardless of what.
Bro,
And
that's
by that time, I would go to my next group of friends who were too afraid to go to them because they felt like they wouldn't, they would shoo them away, right? And then I would explain the homework at that time to them on how we need to go about doing the homework, right? And so, yeah, I ended up staying in the dorm like weeks. And I mean, you're supposed to only stay 4 days a week, right? For 4 days out of the month. I was there 7 days a week. Me and the RAs, I didn't sign in at the front. I did whatever. And at
Mm,
one point,
mm.
one security guard was not a part of the program, right? And ratted out the whole system, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
now I'm at the point where I'm actually banned from the dorm, right?
Mm,
I was like, well, you know what? The building for the library is 24 hours. I'm gonna sleep beside the piano. I'm gonna stay
mm,
inside the gym itself. I would just have my clothes there. I would bathe in the gym. I would work out, bathe in the gym, study, sleep beside the piano, go to work, get back in the morning, and just like, yeah, I'm not going home. Like you
Mm.
think of going home, you just gotta just. So yeah, for a whole 6 months, I was strategically homeless. I could go home, but there's I just can't afford it. Can't afford
Dog,
the last time.
dog mentality, man.
Yeah, it had it
Um,
was
mm, that's that's different.
just yeah.
That's yeah. That's
Gotta do it, man. You gotta just bite the bullet and just
well that,
pull through it, you know?
mm, nah, that's the way to drop this. That's it right there. Bro slept. He was showering inside the gym to get that homework right.
Yup.
Man,
No,
that's like
that's
they
no,
don't make a
I ain't
job for
leaving.
grind, man. That's hey, it's so funny. It's just like our people, man, we are so resilient.
Hmm.
And I always, and just going back to what you said about, and this was such a astute observation that you made of the people that you were teaching
Hmm.
and at home about how to read. It wasn't that they didn't have the capability to do it. They had not been trained to do it. Um, and for me, I wish more institutions would get that. Sometimes just because you're not prepared, it doesn't mean that you're not adept. Like just because you're not prepared doesn't mean that you're not capable. And
Right,
I think sometimes, we go based off of test scores and it's like, okay, yeah, these kids aren't as prepared as other kids, but they are no less capable. I have no doubt in my mind that if I went to Harvard, I would be a straight A student
right.
because I would have done whatever,
It took.
whatever it took. I understand that I'm not coming from the same background or the same, level of preparedness, with respect to education
Right.
or exposure. But I will make up through my 24 hours. I will make 24 hours, 25 hours so I can catch up. Like that and
100%.
excel. Like it's not just about doing what other people's doing. Like I want to be great at this thing, man. I wish more people saw that and
Hard
kind of
work
like were able
works.
to take people under, like, you know what, this guy just wants he's not as prepared, he doesn't have as much job experience, or he doesn't have as much educational experience. He didn't go to this prep school
Right.
and Upper East Side or in the Bronx or I don't know wherever, man, in Florida, Dallas, but he is hungry and he wants this so bad. He's willing to give any man. I have stories. We can go back and forth with these stories, bro. Because listen. I was eating peanut butter. I couldn't even take the train. I
Right.
couldn't even afford to take the train. I couldn't take the train, bro. A
Nope.
$2.75 train ride. At the time, it
Yep.
was $2.75. It's $2.90. I
Yep.
definitely been out of it. I couldn't even afford to take the train to class. But I refused to quit. I refused to go home. I
Yep.
refused not to keep showing up. And nobody will ever know what it feels like to go to sleep hungry and and have to work still and have to attend to clients that aren't willing to pay you and have to tell your family that you're okay and to still want to be involved in classes and social events. They
Yep.
don't get, they don't understand. Like, yeah, we're all taking the same exams and we're all getting the same grade. And I guess if that's the unit of measurement, so be it. But I just believe in that person that has that dog mentality that's like, you know what? Like I'm not gonna let it show. You're not gonna notice about me. But what I've done to get here, most people ain't willing to do.
So it's funny. There's this book called Grit, and
Mm,
so the person who wrote the book Grit recognized like the West Point has a basically a boot camp before you join West Point, right? And you're
mhm,
talking about the people who get into West Point are already very disciplined, hardworking, alpha, determined person,
mhm,
and they wanted in that person's dissertation or research, they wanted to find a metric that would allow you to consistently and reliably tell who would get through the boot camp and finish West Point. It
mhm,
wasn't GPA, it wasn't IQ tests, it wasn't their stellar resume from school, it wasn't anything but the metric of grit, which is the willingness to literally get up and just march forward, regardless of what. Like, just just a full back just running through the center field and getting hit and get back up. Just that dog inside them that just refused to die, and you could never 100% predict who has that dog in them. Like to me, like Steph Curry has that dog in him, but he's a baby face killer. Like his face is not like a Ray Lewis like on the field, but bro's a dog, man. Like
He's a dog, bro. He is a
right?
dog, bro. People don't understand what it takes to be that great. Like he, trust me, I bet you he's done some of the stuff that we've done. Even though he
Not
comes
yeah,
from a different life, but he's definitely stepped in the gym before. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely been the kind of guy that like, hey, I can't even make this event. I'm sorry, I love you, but I
right,
have to get this done. Like I cannot
right.
not get this done. Um,
And
you
that's the story of greatness. I mean, like Napoleon would idolize that. Like, yeah, if you think if like Napoleon never did a lot of good. Some things that Napoleon did wasn't good
Mhm.
ethically what he did, but like if you read about Napoleon and like his movement and like the things he did from where he started to what he became and his obsession with Alexander the Great. I mean, you're talking about these guys are doing these like conquering, running around, developing. And there's this really good podcast called Founders, right? And I
Mhm.
love it. Shout out to Khalid Mohammed because he's my boy who he was in part of my study group in
Mhm.
college, and we stayed very good friends. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding, and he's the one who was pushing me to get back into jiu-jitsu. And he's like, "Bro, you have to listen to Founders, right?" And Founders is about all the big founders that we know by name and never listen to: Carnegie, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Bloomberg, um, anybody who's done like Jeff Bezos, even the person who started Southwest, his name missing his name right now. But every one of those, every time you listen to one of those podcasts,
Mhm.
and I listened to a lot of them,
Yeah.
all of them had an insatiable work ethic, a
Yeah.
dog-like work ethic that would make everybody around them scared. Like I cannot work that type
Too
of like
intense. He's
it's
too intense. He's like,
7 days a week,
yep.
12, 14 days
That's it.
every day.
Every day.
Months.
Don't quit. Don't stop. We keep going. I
Right,
don't ask for a break. I ask for endurance.
right,
And man, I'm either reaching my break or I'm reaching my breakthrough. Like which one
right.
we gonna make it today? Like that's it.
That's
That's
the
that's the dog in you.
dog.
That's the dog, bro.
Even like Bloomberg, for example, like
Mhm.
he was 39 with two kids and a wife. He got fired. I mean, granted, he worked at a really lucrative, investment company. He left with a severance package of 10 million, right?
Mhm.
Bro took 7 million of that to start Bloomberg,
Mm.
and to have to bet. Imagine betting 7 million on yourself on an idea that's not really an idea yet, and just double down on it, and like having to keep off the anxiety of your wife, like, yo, you gonna blow this 10 million on what? Like, what you doing? Your kids want to go to school, like you're really gonna take seven and double down on yourself like that, right? Like, all these guys, even Rockefeller, he considered himself a conqueror. Like if he was in the time of Napoleon, that's what he would be doing. He was, he had that drive to win, that winner's drive, So what do you think? And I just wanna we're gonna, go full circle and wrap it up in a bit, but what do you think, how do you recover from your low moments? Cause everybody has low moments where
Mm.
they're
How do I
like,
recover from low moments? How do I recover from low moments? Talk to friends.
talk to friends,
Um, pray.
pray.
Uh, I keep it simple. Um, but those low moments, I kind of um, it's funny how everything comes full circle because whenever you pour so much into people and you're not only pouring into people that are just going through life easily, you're kind of meeting people that might be in really difficult times sometimes as well. And
Right.
you're able to help them through the difficult times. You never know when you're going to need them. And sometimes it's just been quotes that people hit me back with that I hit them with when they were going through something. Um, prayers, of course, man, that's what I need. But it's also looking at the moment as an opportunity. I feel like, most times where I go through something that's like really, really tough and challenging, I'm kind of grateful for it because I'm like, okay, this is a new level, right? Like no pain, no gain. Like,
Yep.
I'm going through pain because I'm doing something that I've never done before. And I don't know how to quite get through this. So let's conquer it. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to cower or are you going to conquer? Which one are you going to be? You know what I
Right.
mean? And for me, um, that's part of it. And I keep a very detailed planner every day. I use a Franklin Covey planner.
Oh,
So I plan
nice.
every single moment, every single minute of the day. There's not a moment in the day that I don't have. But yeah, that's a good question, man, because my friend asked me that. He's a trainer, man. He's a really spiritual dude too. And he was like, Cam, like you need a break, you need a break, you need to rest, you need to rest. But I'm not used to breathing.
Mhm.
Like I'm used to working until I can't anymore. I've been doing this since I was a child, man. Like since I was young. I
Right.
don't know anything else. So, sometimes it's just like feeling down is a part of life. You just gotta keep going through it. Like I feel grateful to suffer sometimes, man. Like my struggle is my strength. And I just don't stop. I know not to stop there. I think Steve Harvey said it once. He was like, if you're struggling, why are you gonna stop there? Like the idea is to go through. The
Right.
idea is to come to a struggle and stay in it. He's like, just keep going.
Right.
Just keep getting up. Just keep showing up. Um, but I'm grateful, man. I have a great village around me of people that always come at the right time, and I'm prayerful, man. I go to the synagogue often. I
Okay.
surround myself with a really good community. Um, you know, I feel like those moments are inevitable. But
100%.
I look forward to them. I told some of the people that are closest to me this year, I was like, this year is going to be the most challenging year of my life. It's like
Yeah.
I just said it. And it wasn't at a time. Everything feels great right now. I'm not gonna lie. I just moved into a new apartment. I'm feeling cool.
Right.
I know that this year is going to be the most challenging year of my life. Why?
It changes, man.
I can't tell you why. I can't tell you how I know this. I can't tell you why, but it will be. And you know what? I'm going to take the bull by the horns,
Yep.
and I'm going to continue to show up as I am every single day.
Yeah.
Brother, I can't. I welcome the challenge, man. I welcome the tough times because I grow through them. I grow through them, man, and
Yeah.
I'm able to grow with other people through them as well. So, you know, yeah, I don't hide from them, bro. I don't know. That's a good question, man. A lot of people, it's tough for people to go through, man. But I look at it as, as an I do moment. I talk to people about this all the time. When you get married, you get married to your wife, she is as pretty as she's ever been. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? She's in this dress, she's fine as hell. She got makeup, what I'm
Yep.
saying? She done worked out for the last or however months so she could fit into this dress. And
Yep.
you like, damn, like here go my baby. You know what I'm saying? Walking down the aisle with the whole family, people throwing flowers at her, whatever they do at your weddings. And like you looking at the most beautiful woman you ever seen and the person that you're most connected to in this world, your good counsel and you're looking at them in the eyes, and you're like, I do, right? For better or for worse, I do. For sickness or for health, I do.
Right.
For rich or for poor, I do. And you saying it in that moment, but that's not when marriage happens. That's not when it starts, man. For me, it's like, it's those moments where you're like, oh, here comes the sickness part, and here comes the poor part. Here comes the hurt part. Here comes the weakness part. Like, oh man, like, can you
Yep.
still say I do? Can you still say yes to your dreams when you're hurt? Can you still say yes to your vision when you hurt, when you down, when you don't have a vision, when you don't see the next day coming, when you're hungry, when you can't eat, like because you can't afford it? Can you still say yes? Can you still believe in that thing that you love so much? and that you believed in so much that one day. If you could say yes in that moment, then that thing is yours to me. Like to me, if you could say yes when it is for worse, when it is for poor, when it is for sickness, that's your dream asking you how bad you want it. So whenever I go through something that's really challenging, that's really
Yeah.
tough, and I'm getting down, to me it's just a signal. Like I said, one of my traits, one of my strengths, is being able to see the signal in the noise. And it's a lot of noise that's going on around you when when your back is against the wall. But can you see what the real signal is in that moment? The
Right.
signal is, this is your dream asking you, how bad do you want me? Do you really want me, or am
Yeah.
I just a fantasy to you? Am I
Right.
just am I just here for the clout? Am I just here for the influence? Nah, baby, you not. I'm not here just for the influence. Like, this is what I got married to you when I said I do to you a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's hard. That's hard. That's hard. No, but that's the truth though, because like to think you're gonna get this without any adversity is a lie. You
Mm,
tell yourself. It's just a lie you tell yourself. Like if
right.
that's the case, everybody would be rich and famous or successful all around. Like you gotta go through that stripe. When you see someone who's a bodybuilder, right, different than steroids, and you see someone, let's say a power lifter who's really strong. I don't know how many times if you ask them, they failed under the weight. You know, the PR squat or a bench or a deadlift maybe failed at a competition too. How many times they've probably torn a ligament trying to go after it, but they showed up. They kept showing up. And in fact, when you go to jiu-jitsu gyms, they don't even tell you worry about the technique or anything. They just say keep showing up. All you got to do is keep showing up.
Bruh. Man, there were days I would go to the gym. This is funny. This is later. I'm
Yeah.
privileged enough to be able to go to the gym. And I'm in the gym and I'll be sore, man. And I'll be like, you know what? Just show up. Because showing up is 90% of it.
Yep.
The other 10% is how you show up.
Hmm.
But you just show up. Keep showing up. That's it.
That's
Show up
it.
to every single rep. Show
Yep.
up to every single set.
Yep.
Show up to the gym. And
Yep.
how you gonna show up to it? It's
Yep.
because like that Muhammad Ali said, like, until you feel pain, you're not gaining anything.
No.
You take that into every single
It's
rep
called
until
growing pains. It's
that's it
literally it's called growing pains for a reason.
for a reason.
it's
That's science.
it's like they've been telling us.
Fourth rule of thermodynamics, bro.
Yeah, they tell you. They've been tell us what it was. Say it was gonna be nice. It's like growing pains, bro. It's gonna
Man,
hurt.
man, it's growing comfort. Like, man, it's growing pain.
Bro.
I stay away from that comfort, man. Like, as soon as I start feeling that little bit of comfort, I'm like, okay, it's time to shift. It's
Mhm.
time to shift, man. It's time to grow. Um, like I said, man, we don't pray for comfort, man. We pray for endurance. We don't pray for a break. We pray for endurance, man. Stamina. Let me keep going. And some people that makes cringe and they're like, ugh, I can't. That just doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't you want to break? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
what I want.
But that's that Mamba mentality, man. That's that. I'm gonna keep because if you listen to Kobe, like he Kobe out of the greats to me is the one that I embody or I enjoy his spirit of how he speaks about the game. Because even though he was a good basketballer, he became a great basketballer because of his mind
That's
more
right.
than his physical attributes, right? Like he was talented, but his biggest talent is his mind and his drive, right? And his
Hmm.
approach to the game. Like, I need to keep practicing and practicing hard. And it's different than like someone like Shaq. That's why they butt heads. Shaq is a force of nature that, to be that big and that athletic, you know,
You're gonna
he
be
worked hard, but he didn't work as hard as Kobe to be Kobe. Like he was born with some attributes that made him a physical force, and he did hone it. And one thing I respect with Shaq, he played his game. Like, I'm a big man, I'm gonna be a big man, I'm gonna be the best big man. But
mhm.
Kobe had to do a little bit more work to be the best, one of the best shooting guards. He had to do a lot more.
That's Kobe is the most relatable basketball player there is, man. Because
100%.
you know, it, it I was reading a book on him once, and it was like, Kobe never made anything he did look easy. It wasn't like people watched Kobe play and thought like, oh, he's just a natural athlete.
Right.
He's naturally great at this stuff. It was like you could tell that this man took 100,000 shots
Correct.
in order to get one right in that game. Like it didn't seem effortless. You could see the effort that he put into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where he grew up, man. He
Yep.
grew right out, right outside of right?
No, that's that dog in him, man. He got that dog. That's
That dog in this, man,
that dog in him, man. But listen, Cam, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. You know, your story and what you're doing with life needs to be told. The world needs to know it. And we met on LinkedIn just on a pass by, but kindred spirits are kindred spirits. And there's a multitude of people on LinkedIn, but I felt the need to connect with you because I was, I just saw him like this guy is it, man. He got what embodies dream plan execute. Of course, it came through a mutual connection, but a mutual connection, everybody to me is 6 degrees of separation from somebody, right? And you just the nature of life is that when somebody comes into your life that you guys are kindred spirits and you guys are like that, you don't just let that pass. You connect and you guys break bread and you work together, and this is the first product that we've worked on together. It's definitely not the last, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Absolutely, bro. Ramon, thank you for the example that you set, um, for taking the initiative and taking control of this podcast and choosing me. I'm so grateful, bro, just to be. I'm probably echoing everyone else that meets and speaks with you, man. Your character speaks volumes, and your success is just a small part of it, man. You are a huge human being, bro. You fill a great space, and I'm glad to even be honored by someone like you, man. I honor you and what you're able to achieve. You know, I just think you're a phenomenal human being, man. So grateful to be inside of your orbit. Can't wait until we continue to create other products, and I love and I can't wait to keep seeing you grow and progress inside of what you're doing here with the podcast, what you do in your day to day, and all the people that you impact. You know what I'm saying? When you have your little kids, man, you know, they're gonna be some beasts, dude. I don't know what they're gonna choose to do. They gonna,
Oh boy,
they
I
gonna
tell
be
you,
some,
I tell
they
you,
gonna be
the
some killers,
grandparents
man.
are already foaming at the mouth for that. I tell you that.
They're gonna be different. I'm trying to tell you, bro. They're gonna have
That's a good point.
so whatever school you send them to, I'm sending mine to too, bro. Because
Oh my God.
them to be around it.
No, man, trust me, we're gonna do business together because, like I said,
Hmm.
I have it, but like the dynamic between myself and my wife, I call myself my favorite animal is the wolf, right? I
Yeah.
feel that the wolf is to me, or the lone wolf can a wolf can be in a pack and work together as a pack, but they're not afraid to do it alone, right?
Mhm.
So they have that dynamic of being able to just run through the snow and just get it done, right? But my wife to me is an eagle, right? She has vision. She has very good vision, and I give her that, right? But in
Oh,
even in nature, the eagle and the wolf they do work together, right? Like so, eagles make an exceptional effort to play with wolves early
mhm.
because together as a unit, the eagle had can see the buffalo, can see the vision. It's really hard to take a buffalo down as an eagle. But if you have the ability to, inspire a wolf to work with you, you can see across the hills and the trees, and you might be charting that direction, but the buffalo is over here. So if we work together, we can all eat, right?
Come on.
And my wife definitely has vision. I give her that, and I just have that dog in me. So we just, I'm telling you,
I just got that dog in me.
yeah,
Bro, I just got that dog in me. It's like I can't. I just got it in me.
it's
Right?
just it's there. It's been there, and I double down on her strengths, and she doubled down on my strengths. And I'm telling you, you're gonna double down on your strengths. And one thing that is I've recognized just in the circle of friends that I have that I keep coming back to and want to work with is that
Mhm.
real estate development, right?
Mhm.
And I'm working in construction. I'm doing what I do as a project manager. You're working as an analyst, and for us to develop a real estate development plan, perform and execute it from literally dream plan execute. That's where it starts. It starts with the dream. The profana and the planning is where you plan. You know what I mean? That's all you put. The profana is your plan, your financial plan to the exit. And then the construction is the execution of it. The operations end is the execution of it. And how myself and my wife got together was because of my wanting to get into real estate development, to get into real estate in general, right? My dad is in real estate. He does that for a living. That he's in the cemetery business, but he's in the CFO of a cemetery, right?
Right,
And
right.
God, we can go on a tangent of how much money cemeteries make, but that's
Okay.
a different story. But yeah, he's in real estate. I find myself in real estate. Half my friends are professional engineers. I'm going for my professional engineering license, and things are like I said. This is not accident. Lance or mutual connection is in construction too, right? And like you said, as a group, as a community, if anything out of the podcast is not money, it's the ability to connect with
Right.
like-minded people that we can possibly do business and really make a move on this real estate game. And that to me is my intent. Different than just inspiring is to build that network of people, of killers who have that dog, and you're willing to put them up.
Dog, you. That's well. Let's eat.
This
Let's
eat,
eat
bro.
then.
This eat.
Let's eat. Listen, thankful for the vision. I got the vision now. I got the vision. This is deeper than the podcast. I see the vision, man. Man, I'm grateful that you see it, dude. Man, there's no other person. There's no other person, Ramon. I'm just grateful, man. I really am grateful for you. And it's divine to me. How we all cross paths, and I love how intent you are. Um, Man, I would love to do business with you.
It's
You know what I mean?
telling you it's gonna happen. We're gonna make it happen because, like I said, first thing that most people fail at first is the fear of saying it out in the open and holding yourself accountable to it, right?
Right.
Like everyone will just have it on a piece of paper and they'll never say it. They'll just lock it away because if I don't say it, then no one can know and no one can hold you accountable. But guess what? Every sports athlete or anybody who wants to get something done, the eyes and scrutinies when they be on you. Like every athlete gets scrutinized when they're playing at the big league. Every professional singer gets scrutinized when they're on stage, right? Like the ability to put yourself out there and just say, yeah, this is what I want to do, and I'm willing to take the scrutiny and the hurt and whatever it takes. Because most people don't do it. They will never say it. They will just keep it and hide it, but you know what? That pressure is either you're gonna burst or you turn into a diamond, and I refuse to burst.
Let's go. Let's go, bro. Oh,
I
we
just
making
refuse.
diamonds today. We
This
making
is
diamonds are forever. You said, "Oh, I'm burst. I'm a diamond."
Yep.
Well, bro,
All
that's
right, brother. Yo, listen.
I don't know how I'm gonna go to sleep now, but
Yeah,
thank you, bro.
just keep safe.
Appreciate
All
the
right.
motivation.
No, brother. It's all good. I'm happy you came on. Like I said, again, dream plan, execute, dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly. And you got it. We got it. Let's make it happen. All right, brother.
Yeah, bro.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Keep safe, man.
Peace you as well.